È incredibile, sì.
È incredibile. La macchina fotografica
Welcome back to JST and to the second Kyoto vlog. As you saw in the previous one, I travel a little bit more in the city, and I spent there more or less 3 days. And I began my journey here with Fushimi Taisha, and it was very nice because the fox is very dear to me, and because this is for me one of the most incredible sightseeing of all Japan. Clearly it's very popular, everyone knows about this temple, it appears in many different movies, so I won't go on and on about this. But you have just to remember that Inari is the god of the rice, so in the past times it was the god of wealth and richness and of agriculture, and today it's more associated with the freelance activities and entrepreneurship, so again, very dear to me. The second day we went a little bit more in the city, and in particular we visited the Kinkakuji, the Ryoanji and the Nijo Castle. The first two are two Buddhist temples, and they're very different one from the other because the Golden Pavilion, the Kinkakuji, is clearly an image of, again, of magnitude, of power, of wealth, and it was a symbol of the Ashikaga shogunate. If you see the temple, you see 3 different floors, which has 3 different styles, which recalls 3 different type of building. For example, the first floor is the samurai house, so there is a kind of hierarchy in the building, and the top is a Buddhist style building with a phoenix on top, again to represent hierarchy in the Japanese society. As you may know, the temple was burned down in 1950 by a apparently very angry monk, and rebuilt 5 years later, and then later on covered in gold again in 1987. It's always packed with tourists, but nonetheless it's a view that you can't forget. Incredible, I didn't believe that. I thought, well, it's just like a picture, like a postcard, nothing important. But when you actually are there in front of the gold, you look at it, you stare, you can't stop staring. Ryoanji on the opposite side is very different. It's pure Zen, it's silence, it's wood, it's colorless somehow. So it's just brown, some gray, a little bit of green, no color at all, no lights, very shadowy somehow. So you go there barefoot, you walk inside barefoot, you sit in front of this garden, which is a rock garden, a typically Zen garden with rocks, and you meditate. And that's it. That's the beauty of the place, the silence, the gray and browns, and meditation. This temple was not taken care of until the late 1930s, but today it's again in this very beautiful state in which you can actually experience, if you're lucky enough not to be surrounded by people, the power of silence and of Zen meditation. And then we went to the Nijo Castle, which is not quite far from the Imperial Palace. Now you have to remember that the castle was built by the Tokugawa shogunate, which dominated Japanese politics since the 17th century on until the 19th century, and in that time the emperor was still living in Kyoto. So while the shogunate had its own headquarters in Tokyo, in order to control and to better have an idea of what the emperor was doing, they built a place to control the emperor, and this is the Nijo Castle. So it's a place which was barely used actually, but it was a power display, and it was a place in which all the daimyo that wanted to meet the shogunate could go and experience the actual power hierarchy there. In fact, for example, they were made to wait in a room with walls painted with tigers and leopard, which never existed in Japan, but just to scare them off. The Sanju Sangendo. Incredible, I guess this is the proper word. When you visit Japan, you always have to remember that here earthquakes are huge, and more than that, fire was huge, especially once because everything was built with woods, and a lot of temples, a lot of buildings were destroyed by fire. Nonetheless, if you go there, you actually can see the beauty of this place. And Kannon here is renowned for having 1,000 arms. Even if the statues don't actually have 1,000 arms, they have 24 and 24, I guess, something like 40. But again, the idea of saying 1,000 mean that Kannon could save everyone. So praying Kannon, you can be saved and achieve enlightenment, probably. So this place in which you actually somehow feel power of this vast army of statues. On the other end, when you visit Kiyomizu-dera, you kind of taste ancient Kyoto, I guess. When you think about Japan and when you think about ancient places in Japan, I guess you think about Kiyomizu-dera. And this is a very famous place because it's built on top of a hill, and there are lots of pictures of the wooden structures from the other side of the hill, and surrounded by nature, by forests, the red pagoda there. Again, one of those views that if you go to Kyoto you can't miss. From the main building you can walk to the terrace and then walk a part of the mountain and reach another pagoda, which from the terrace you can see actually. So the afternoon was instead consecrated to Nara. And this, in my opinion, is something that if you go to Japan you might want to add to your itinerary. Not because it's a huge city, but because it's very important from a historical point of view. Nara was in fact the first steady capital of Japan, and up until the Nara time, Nara period, so up until the 8th century, the capital used to move. Every time the emperor died, then the capital would change place. Imperial Palace would be destroyed, and a new palace would be rebuilt in a different location in order to avoid the impurity of death. But with the Nara period, you have for the first time a steady capital. And this is very important because for the first time, power gathered around a place. And along with power, you have here the biggest wooden building of Buddhist type in the world. And this is the Todaiji. And this is the reconstruction of an older building which was damaged and destroyed by fire that was even bigger. And inside that you have the biggest statue of Buddha, a seated Buddha, surrounded by other two bodhisattvas. The Todaiji was built by Emperor Shomu in 745, and it was a means to put a rest to all the calamities that the country was experiencing back then, but also a display of power again. I really think that this time for me, Kyoto was revealing for some reasons. I actually never took the time to enjoy the city before, and this was the first time that I actually had to spend a longer time here with people that needed to learn something about the city, so I had to learn something too. And I have to say, with respect to Tokyo, that in fact this city is probably softer, in that I mean that while Tokyo is frenetic and it's full of life but also stressful and never sleeping, this of course is smaller, so it's around 1 million inhabitants, something more, but not as much as Tokyo. And so I guess this is more human-like city. Again, if you have the time to go to Japan and if you have the time to spend a little more time there, enjoy Kyoto, absolutely. So thanks again for watching, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. You can find a lot of video about Japan and Japanese culture here, and if you like the video, thumbs up, and I talk to you soon. Bye!